Hi. So I think I'll just start off with Cold Case itself. From the
Yeah,
trailers, I think it's sort of clear that it's an investigative thriller with elements of horror. I'm not sure. So what can you tell us about it, and how different is it from the investigative thrillers that you've been part of over the years?
yeah. So you're more or less right. Where I thought the script for Cold Case is different from the usual read is it is basically the same story traveling in two different paths. Right. So it is one path is that of a police officer investigating a case that had gone cold, which is suddenly supposed up a lead again. And obviously, it's a police investigation. So that track progresses purely based on logic and evidences and inferences and leads. Then there is the other track through which the same story is traveling, again an investigation, but this time by an investigative journalist. But on that path, you start encountering things that cannot necessarily be explained by logic, that are paranormal, that are supernatural. And what is interesting is it is not that one track sort of negates the other. It is not that one inference proves the other one wrong. And eventually, when both these tracks intertwine at one point, both these protagonists still can't really say, no, you're wrong and I'm right. And
Right.
as somebody seeing the film, you'll still feel, hang on, both of them are right. So in that way, it's very, very intelligently designed and written. So yeah, that's more or less what Cold Case is about.
Because I think the filming was done, I think around October, November, after the lockdown. I mean, was this
Yeah.
a project that was conceived keeping an OTT release in mind?
No, this was a film that we did hoping that theaters would be back up and open long, long back. You know, so no, this was not designed as an OTT film. This was meant for community viewing. But yeah, given the circumstances, I think the best platform that this film could hope for right now is Amazon Prime Video, because obviously a film getting to premiere in 240 plus countries for people to watch from the safety of their homes at their own convenience with what is going on around us, I think that is much more than what we could ask for.
Understood. It's got about, I think, three cinematographers, sort of working behind the screen. It's got Joe Mohan
Yeah,
as a producer, it's got Girish Gangadharan, and it's got
yeah,
Tanu. Tanu's pretty much, started out as a cinematographer, sort of.
yes.
And Girish is somebody that you've always wanted to work with. So, how was that experience? And did, all three cinematographers in terms of visuals,
It
how
was
much of
also
their contribution?
partly it was also partly shot by Jomon,
All
uh,
right, all right.
and the rest of the film was shot by Girish. Now, Jomon and Girish are both people I'm very familiar with because my first film that Jomon shot was Ayalum Nyanam Tamil, where Girish was his assistant. So I know both these people from long back, and then I've done more films with Jomon, and Girish, of course, is somebody I know very well. Tanu is somebody I know from childhood. Actually, I mean,
Okay.
I was born and brought up in Trivandrum, and by the time we were in high school, Tanu and his brother were already making a name for themselves for
All right.
making music videos and all that. And I remember the first time I worked with Tanu is when he shot a music video for Agale, Shyam Prasad Sir's film. So I know him from those times. So eventually, when Tanu made a feature film, I'm glad that I was part of it. And yeah, the fact that Joe Mohan is one of the producers and one of the cinematographers, and Girish also shot the film, uh, you will know how good they are when you see the film, because I think it's a very well shot film. Yeah.
All right. Because I think you play a police officer in this. I know you
Yeah.
sort of, I mean, you must be aware that, in all the industries that you've worked in, you've played a police officer. I think police
Yes.
in Telugu,
Yes.
Ravan,
Yes.
and yeah. So, I mean, if you were to pick the most challenging police officers that you've played, which would it be? And where would you place ACP Satyajit among them?
So, so firstly, I think when for somebody who's done so many cop movies, I think it is important to find a difference between these kinds of films. So there are some cop films that are very character driven, right? I mean, the film itself is a character. Let's say, for example, Mumbai Police. Mumbai Police is Anthony Moses. I mean, the whole film is about the character. Even something like Memories, the whole film is Sam Alex. You discover the plot through Sam Alex. Then there is another kind of cop film where you're just a character in the plot, and Cold Case is one such film. Cold Case is a very complex, interesting plot within which Satyajit and Medha are two characters. And because they are placed merely as characters within a plot, there isn't a lot of detailing or layering that the writer is lent to these characters. So when you walk into films like that, I think it is very important as an actor that you take a step back. You don't overemphasize building the character, and you don't push the character into becoming bigger than the plot. So within Cold Case, Satyajit is a cop. He's a no-nonsense police officer, very good at inferring and following leads and breaking down evidences. But other than that, it is not a character that needs to have a very specific body language or where a lot of his complexities need to come through. No, it is not that. So for me, Cold Case is not about the character.
Understood. So I was just hoping you would also mention, Solomon Joseph in Vargam, because I think
There are
that's,
many. I mean, once you start, nearing the 25 mark as cop alone, so then it's a little complex to pick.
all right. And let's just follow up the other questions. I think because you've been working with a lot of cinematographers as directors. I think, say, even for Brahma, Ravi
Yeah.
Chandan sir. So, I mean, what is the challenge of, remaking a film, something as popular as, say, Andhadhun?
The challenge is that it is a hugely popular film, and that is what is exciting about it also. I remember the first time Andhadhun hit the theaters and it became very popular. I was shooting Lucifer, and it was Vivek Oberoi, who told me there is this film which I think you should do in Malayalam. So I was like, why me? He said, I don't know. I just saw the film and I think you would be great at it. It was Vivek Oberoi who told me this first. Then, I was making my film and all went away. And then months later, Mr. Mukesh R. Mehta came to me and said, we have an opportunity to make this. Would you like to do it? So I said, yeah, I mean, let me take this because I think it's important that content not just travels from south to north. I think it's important that content also travels from north to south. I think it's very important that down the line, when a filmmaker makes a film, and if that content can travel, it shouldn't just be that South films are being remade there. It would be nice to have the other way around also. And I think Andhadhun as a film is content that lends itself very well to Malayalam. I hope I'll be proven right when you see the film.
All right. I think the pandemic and the advent of OTTs, I think especially the last 1.5 years have sort of entirely changed the viewing experiences for the audiences. So what does this mean, for film industry like Malayalam, which was, I think, last year, just exploring a lot of markets and, coming to terms with the whole business potential aspect of it. Because I ask this because you have a big project like Emburan at hand. And you are also doing a virtual production with the Gokul Raj Bhaskar is directing. So I think both in terms of conception of the films, do we see a change happening?
So let us face this fact that the OTT premiering phenomenon, that films finding their way directly to digital platforms, was anyway meant to happen. I've said this even before the pandemic. This was something that would have happened anyway. Yeah, the process might have been accelerated because of what has happened around us for the past, couple of years. But at some point, this would have happened anyway. There would be films finding their way directly to digital platforms. I think it's great. I think it's great not just for the financials of the industry. I think it's great even for creative reasons, because I think down the line what is going to happen is theaters will always be the mainstay for large scale films, right? I mean, there will be films that you and I think this I want to see on a big screen. I want to go and watch it with a crowd. I want to see it on a big screen. There'll always be films like that. If tomorrow Marvel's new multi-billion-dollar film premieres on an OTT platform and the theaters the same day, I'd still go watch it in theaters. So there'll always be that kind of cinema. But then there'll also be the kind of cinema where the liberty of an OTT platform, the liberty of a filmmaker not having to subject his creation to community viewing would actually mean that the film is better. So you take a script and you think, okay, the best way I can tell the story is to dwell on each moment, is to tell the viewer, listen, I want you to spend time on this moment with me. Such films will then eventually be designed as OTT films. And a classic example is Joji, brilliant film, and designed and executed with keeping in mind that this will be on Amazon, and it worked. Emburan is never a film that is designed like that. Emburan is designed for the big screens. It is designed for theaters. It is designed for 1,000 people to sit together and see. So it is nice. It will diversify. It will coexist. So don't listen to the doomsayers. No.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Since you mentioned Emburan, I mean, I have to ask you about Bro Daddy, because I think Srijit has said, I think since he started narrating till the end, you were pretty much laughing all the way. And then you asked him not to narrate it to anyone else.
I did.
And then within a week, so you sort of decided that you're going to direct the film.
Yeah. So I just think that especially given the kind of content that's being produced and created over the past 1.5 years. I just think all of us badly need a happy film. At least personally, I would love to see a happy film. And I mean a happy film, I just would like to see a film which puts a smile on your face and you laugh through it. And that's it. I mean, there is, it is just something that gives you a few hours of happiness, nothing more than that. I personally was really looking forward to something like that. But everything that kept coming my way were murder mysteries and thrillers and, dark satires and all that, which is when I heard the script and it really appealed to me. I mean, it was when I heard the script is when I actually realized how much we have missed a film like this.
Okay.
It was never, in my mind, was never meant to be this huge multi-star film or anything, right? I mean, I thought, okay, it's so different from what I'm used to. It is so different from my first film and my supposed second film. Let me give it a try. It will be great for me as a filmmaker. I'm going to break myself. I'm going to, have to do a different kind of conceiving and filmmaking and all that. And then casually, I just narrated the script to Lalitan. I just said as this thing, and I narrated from beginning to end. And immediately he said, "We are doing it," and that's how
Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure talking to you again.
Thank you
All right.
so much. Yeah.